For this practice, you will need a chair. If you are taking the practice on a chair, then you will need an additional chair. So 2 chairs or 1 chair if you are taking the practice on the mat, standing and lying down. Also, just maybe a couple of blankets or a cushion, whatever you usually have to hand that brings you support and comfort in your postures. So we'll start in Tadasana and then starting to shake the body, shaking the arms, shaking the legs, maybe all at the same time. And then just returning back to Tadasana. Noticing where you feel connected to the ground or to the chair if you're seated. As you inhale, we'll take the arms up, exhaling as you fold forward in whatever variation is preferable for you. As we inhale, we're coming back up, either rolling the spine if that feels okay, otherwise taking a long neutral spine. So just working with your inhalation and exhalation, moving in and out of Uttanasana. And just taking the same function if you're seated, we're folding forwards. If there's any sinus, eye or blood pressure things going on, just keep their head in line with the spine. Option to drop the hands and quickly exhale as you fold forward, if it feels okay in your head and your neck. And as you do this, exhaling through the mouth. And of course, you have the option to continue with the slow, smooth movement, moving in and out. And then returning to Tadasana, to this steady, comfortable position. Placing both hands over the chest. As you inhale, opening the arms out. Exhaling as you wrap the arms around you. Inhaling as you open out. This time as you exhale, just wrap the arms the opposite way, so whichever arm was on top, just switching that over. And so now just taking this as a standing or seated if you're in the chair, variation of cat-cow. So as you inhale and open out the arms, have a sense of the chest bone coming up towards the sky. And as you exhale, encourage a rounding in the spine, maybe a bend in the knees. And if you're seated, maybe you can notice how the pelvis is changing the weight against the chair. So then returning to our steady Tadasana, taking the feet a little bit wider. As we inhale, we're taking one arm over, exhaling as you return, inhaling as you take that arm over, exhaling as you return the spine to neutral. Taking a pause as you next bring the arm overhead, taking a couple of breaths, and as you exhale, lower, maybe shrug the shoulders before starting on the other side. So the arm comes over as you inhale, exhaling as you return. And then this next time that you take the arm overhead, we'll pause in this lateral position, directing the inhalation to the inside of the ribs. And then lowering as you exhale. Again, maybe the shoulders naturally want to have a bit of a shrug. We'll bring the feet back to a preferable position in your Tadasana. Taking the arms up overhead. Now starting to bring one arm forwards as one goes back. as the arms come back alongside you. We'll continue to take a circling motion. So it's a bit of work for the brain here. Take it nice and slow. One arm comes forward as one arm comes back. So both arms are making a circle. And you might find that as one arm goes back, the torso may rotate in the direction of that. And then as the other arm goes back, maybe the torso rotates all the way back round. Maybe exploring taking this a bit quicker. Notice if it's easier for the brain or harder for the brain. And then pausing before going the opposite way. So whichever arm was going back, we're going to switch that up. Now the opposite arm is starting to rotate backwards as the other arm goes forwards. Still taking this circling motion with both of the arms. And maybe changing up the speed again. Noticing if it feels easier or harder. And letting the body rotate with this movement. Exhaling as you lower the hands. Inhaling, taking them back up, palms touching. Exhaling as they lower back down. Inhaling, palms together. Exhaling, facing the palms down as you lower the arms. Inhaling, palms up, fingertips or palms touching. Exhaling as you turn the palms to face down, slowly towards the ground. Taking a moment to pause, return to steady Tadasana, mountain pose, noticing where you feel steady and connected to the ground. If you are seated, just come to the edge of the chair. And then we'll all start placing the hands on the thighs. As you exhale, allowing the hands to lower and the pelvis comes towards the ground. Bending the knees. If we're seated, the hands will come along the thighs towards the knees, folding forwards, keeping the spine nice and long. Option to add on an extra positioning of the arms, maybe bringing them up overhead, maybe in a cactus position out to the side. Just make sure we've got this length in the spine. We're not rounding, we're not arching. Just finding an angle that feels comfortable for you. So we'll do that again, coming into Utkatasana. Hands coming down, sliding down towards the knees. Adding on that positioning of the arms if that feels okay for you. Just connecting to that length in the spine, steadiness from the ground as you come back up into Tadasana, whether you're standing or in the chair. So now we will bring the chair, and you can bring this along the long side of the mat. I'm just putting it in front of me so that you can see a better angle. So if we are on the chair, I am going to bring in this other chair now, and we will take a wider leg stance of the legs. You can either have the legs extended, if that doesn't feel so nice in the knee joints, if we've got any hypermobility, then we will keep the knees bent. So just explore both and see which is the best positioning for you. Also making sure the chair is close enough. So we'll start with the hands on the chair and folding forwards. Maybe coming onto the elbows, keeping the head in line with the spine, or if it feels okay for you to round. And just taking a couple of breaths here. Those of us that are standing, taking the same position. So a wide leg stance, as wide as feels comfortable. Taking the hands into the hip creases and starting to fold forward, hinging at the hips. Spine nice and long. Once you come to wherever feels right for you, we'll bring the hands to the chair. And again, either taking the hands further away, having this reach and space in the back, maybe resting the elbows onto the chair, maybe the forehead. And we'll just take a couple of breaths in this quieting position. And then as we inhale, slowly starting to bring the head in line with the spine. Coming back to that neutral position. So now we're just going to bring one hand to the center of the chair. And then as we inhale, we're going to start to lift the other arm. Maybe the elbow points up, maybe the hand unfolds. Exhaling as you thread that arm under. Inhaling as you rotate, unfolding the arm towards the sky. So with each exhalation, really reaching, maybe feeling a bit of a connection to your center as you reach into that rotation. And then resting the next time that you unfold. Or just switch up the hands. So now placing the other arm so that that's central in the chair. And as we inhale, unfolding maybe the elbow, maybe the arm. Exhaling as you thread the arm through. Inhaling, opening out. Exhaling as you thread through, really reaching. And just taking a pause the next time that you open the arm out. And just seeing if you can invite a little more comfort as you pause in this position. And this is exactly the same if you're taking this in the chair or two-chair variation. And then just coming back to even that out, folding forwards, maybe a softness in the knees if we're standing. Bringing yourself back to neutral, hands back into the hip creases, nice and steady coming back up, and heel-toeing the feet back together. Just coming back into your seated Tadasana if you're in the chair. Moving the extra chair so that it's out of the way. As we return to our steady Tadasana. Taking the awareness to the soles of the feet and allowing the steadiness to arise in the body and the breath. If we're standing, we're going to make our way to a seated position. You may want to sit on a blanket or a cushion or a block. And then we're going to take this wide leg position. So have a bit of a shuffle and see what feels best for you. If there's any discomfort in the knees, if there's any hypermobility, just place a couple of rolled up blankets underneath the back of the knees. Connect to your neutral spine. So starting from the sitting bones and just having this feeling of length from the sitting bones all the way up to the crown of the head. Just taking a moment first of all to rest in this feeling of steadiness. If we are in the chair, also taking a wide leg stance, either with the legs extended or you can have a bend in the knees. So from this seated wide leg position, it may feel nicer for you to bring the toes towards you and have a bit of activation in the legs by flexing the ankles. As we inhale, we're going to bring the arms maybe out ahead, maybe bringing them over above you towards the sky. See which feels best for you and whichever position allows you to have a neutral supported spine. From here, We're going to keep one hand facing forwards as it is. The other hand is going to start to come behind you. Maybe the elbow, maybe opening out the arm. And then we're going to bring it back up. We're going to stay on this same side. As we inhale, we're rotating into the direction that the arm is opening. And then exhaling as you come back. Checking in again with the spine, making sure we've not collapsed and we're still creating that support. And then we'll change to the other side. Inhaling as you open out and rotate, keeping the other arm facing forwards. So just keeping that awareness with the breath, with the steadiness from the sitting bones. And you can change the positioning of the arms. You can lower the height if that feels better for you. And then floating the hands down. Taking a bend in the knees. If you're in the chair, just bring the knees back into a comfortable Tadasana. And if we're on the mat, just allowing yourself to fold forwards over the knees, letting the spine round and be effortless. If we're seated, just bringing one knee towards you and rounding forwards and bringing the other. So if we are in a chair, just place a blanket or a cushion on your lap and allow the hands to rest. Those of us that are seated on the mat, we're going to come onto our fronts. So place a blanket underneath the hip crest if you need to. And then just placing the head to rest onto the hands, placing both hands above and letting yourself just be here for a couple of moments, noticing where you can feel the front of the body connected to the ground in Makarasana. And if you're in the chair, just noticing that support from the sitting bones as you rest in your Tadasana. So just taking this time to really let yourself have this feeling of steadiness and encouraging this steadiness within the body, within the breath. If you feel like you need to maybe move the legs or have a little wriggle of the pelvis before we come into Bhujangasana, which is Cobra Pose. Just making sure you feel as comfortable as possible. So now, waiting for an inhalation, lifting the head, lifting the shoulders, exhaling as you lower. As we inhale, the head lifts, shoulders peel away, keeping the elbows in contact with the ground, exhaling as you lower. So the option now, as the head lifts, you can bring the hands to the side, exhaling as you lower, sliding the hands back for the head to rest. So just choose whichever feels best for you. Taking a couple of these, just connecting that inhalation with the rise, exhalation as you lower. If it feels okay in your spine, maybe lifting the hands away from the ground as you start to peel away. Otherwise, returning back to another variation with the hands connected to the ground or keeping the elbows connected. If there's any discomfort at all in the lower spine, just ease out. Maybe explore taking the feet a little bit wider and maybe exploring pushing the tops of the feet into the ground. So just continuing with that, if we're in the chair variation, just allowing ourselves to have this feeling of the chest bone coming up towards the sky as we inhale, exhaling as we return the spine to neutral. With each inhalation, that rise, the gaze comes up, and then exhaling as you return back to neutral. You may want to use this external feeling of the cushion or the blanket on the lap by pushing the hands into that as you inhale, exhaling as you return to neutral. And then if you're lying down, returning to Makarasana, allowing the head to rest on the hands and taking some breaths here from this place of steadiness where you feel connected to the ground. And then making your way onto your back into constructed rest. If you are seated in the chair, just bringing yourself into Tadasana. And if we're lying, we'll take the feet a little wider and the hands out to the side. As you exhale, floating the knees over to one side. As you inhale, bringing the knees back towards you. And as you exhale, floating to the other side. With each inhalation, bringing the knees to the sky. With each exhalation, floating towards the ground. If it feels okay in your neck, we will combine this opposite movement. So as the knees go to one side, just allowing the head to roll and the gaze goes to the other. So as much comfort and softness as you move from one side to the other, just continuing at your breath. And if we're taking the chair variation, having a wider leg stance, you can have the hands either resting on the thighs or alongside the chair. Keeping the spine nice and long as we exhale, floating the knees to one side, inhaling as the knees come back. And also that option to add in a movement of the head. So as the knees go to one side, maybe the gaze goes to the other. And we're still getting this same function, and from both of these variations we can notice how the feet are connecting to the ground as you go from one side to the other. So then we'll bring ourselves back to constructed rest and then hug the knees towards the chest. If we're seated, we will hug one knee towards us and then the other. Just taking that variation of Apanasana before making your way into Shavasana. So if you are lying down, you can stay in constructed rest, or you can extend the legs out straight, having a bit of space between the feet, allowing the feet to fall out to the side. Having the hands wherever feels comfortable for you, whether that's resting on the body, whether that's out to the side with the palms facing up, or maybe with the palms facing down so you can connect to that steadiness. If you are in your chair, taking your Tadasana, using that support of the back of the chair so that you can be easeful. Maybe having that cushion or blanket resting on the thighs, maybe the hands resting on the cushion or blanket. And an invitation to close your eyes as we allow the body to soften, letting yourself be held by the support of the ground or the chair, and allowing the breath to arise from this place of steadiness. And as you exhale, just releasing as much effort as possible, allowing yourself to really have this sense of comfort. And so we'll just take these next few moments in your Shavasana, Just returning to the steady ground and your comfortable natural breath as many times as you need to. So you can stay here as long as you like. If you would like to take a longer Shavasana, then please do. Otherwise, we will invite some natural movement into the body. Just taking your time, if we're lying down, to come over onto the right side, making sure the head is supported. Taking a few breaths here before you gradually bring yourself up to any comfortable seated position. So whether that's taking your blanket or a cushion or block, you can have the legs out straight, you can have them crossed. And that invitation to close the eyes, taking these final few breaths, connecting to the steady ground. And if you are in the chair, just coming towards the edge of the chair, creating that support with your spine. As always, taking this final moment to give thanks to all of the teachers before us, and just taking your time to head off into the rest of your day.